Hurricane Ike getting bigger and bigger.
This hurricane could be the worst storm to hit the Texas coast in nearly 4 decades.
It's a monster storm. It's 120 miles wide across.
This morning it is getting ominously close to the Texas coast.
Persons not heeding evacuation orders in single-family, 1- or 2-story homes will face certain death.
On Wednesday, September 10th, 2008, Hurricane Ike crossed over Cuba and barreled into the Gulf of Mexico, with the coast of Texas squarely in its sights. The brave men and women of the Texas Department of Transportation were ready and waiting. Three storms in 3 months. Texans have been tormented by 2 hurricanes and a tropical storm in 3 months, and were in no mood to weather another. One thing was certain, though: a colossal storm, as big as Texas itself, was headed towards our coast. Preparations had begun a week before, with the earliest planning efforts directed towards South Texas and the Corpus Christi district, Hurricane Ike's initial target. But the unpredictable storm changed course, and the staging of resources quickly shifted from the Corpus district to the Beaumont district. TxDOT Emergency Operation Centers, EOCs, activated in districts across the state, began coordinating field activities and directing resources toward the coastal districts that would inevitably bear the brunt of the storm. Buddy districts also began their preparations, mobilizing employees that would supplement impacted district forces during the evacuation, recovery, and re-entry. These volunteer crews faced a formidable task: deploy into dangerous storm-damaged areas, assess and repair damage, and be ready to work long, hard hours away from home for an unknown length of time. But morale was high, and while the damage from the storm was yet to be seen, the mission for TxDOT troops was straightforward: to clear the road for first responders. The State Operations Center in Austin, which coordinates emergency response activities with all state, federal, and local entities, monitored the storm's progress, as well as the early evacuation of special needs patients from coastal areas. TxDOT representatives at the SOC kept in close touch with the TxDOT EOC, monitoring the evacuation progress and sharing critical information. A massive Category 2 storm, which was expected to make landfall as a dangerous Category 3 or 4 hurricane, Ike had now narrowed its aim, drawing a bead on Galveston Island and the Houston area. With Galveston under a mandatory evacuation order, the immediate transportation issue was whether or not to initiate contraflow on highways I-45, I-10, and US 290. To facilitate Galveston's evacuation, most of Houston's 4 million residents had already been advised to hunker down and ride out the storm. TxDOT Executive Director Amadeo Sainz took to the air Friday morning, surveying evacuation routes from above, and by Friday evening, with traffic slow but moving, a decision had been reached.
Contraflow of Interstate 10 is off the table.
Evacuees continued to stream out of Houston and Galveston, with TxDOT facilitating the evacuation effort by providing roadside assistance, comfort stations, and travel advice. Citizens were also able to access current road conditions by phone or internet. The immediate goal was to get Texans on the road to safety. These stations would remain staffed and in operation until the last possible minute, until deteriorating weather conditions forced their closure. Beginning Friday, crews from across the state, enlisted to provide support to the coastal districts, headed for one of the 3 staging districts located in Bryan, Dallas, and Yoakum. Sign crews, signal crews, bridge crews, and maintenance crews arrived all afternoon and proceeded to check equipment, fuel their vehicles, and as the wind began to pick up, perhaps wonder what lay ahead. But they were ready for the challenge and certain of their role in the recovery.
The group from San Antonio, Texas will be leading the TxDOT forces in, clearing a path hopefully all the way into Beaumont.
This is what we do. We just feel like we're doing our job. We're just doing it in a different place and trying to get some people back on the road where they need to be going.
Tomorrow, I guess we'll find out how good we are.
We got more potatoes and more beans, guys. And more sausage. And more sausage, too.
In Yoakum, crews enjoyed a barbecue dinner the night before Ike hit. For some, it would be their last hot meal for quite a while. That night across the state, men and women were issued cots and settled into school gymnasiums and district conference rooms for the night. Some slept in their trucks. Landfall for Hurricane Ike was now predicted to be early Saturday morning. Hurricane Ike slammed into Galveston at 2 a.m. Saturday, September 13th. 110-mile-per-hour winds pummeled the island relentlessly. The storm surge, a powerful wall of water, pushed across the island, razing buildings and leaving the city standing in 3 feet of water. Galveston Island and the Bolivar Peninsula were devastated.
Storm has come on shore, it's moving north.
At first light, TxDOT reconnaissance teams headed out to assess the roadways, report damage, and direct crews to the areas of most immediate need. At the yard, road crews attended safety briefings, customized for the task at hand.
The electricity's goal is to find its way to ground, and it will find its way through your body, it will find its way through a bucket truck, it will find its way any way it can, depending on how high the voltage is.
Once the initial damage assessments had been made, work assignments were made, maps were issued, and the crews rolled out, eager to get on the road and begin the recovery efforts.
And then as you progress west on Interstate 10, multiple closures at Interstate 45, US 59, and then underpass closures at Lockwood, McCarty, the list goes on.
In Houston, which had extensive flooding and power outages, crews were hampered almost immediately by motorists out and about, checking on family and friends, homes and businesses.
Actually, there's more people out here than there should be right now. I mean, we're still in the cleanup stage, and I really wish there weren't this many cars out here, but being the 4th largest city in the country, we're going to have traffic, So we're doing the best we can. We're trying to clear it out as soon as we can.
Downtown Houston took a beating, with streets covered in glass from eerily windowless skyscrapers. Traffic crept along passable routes as people began to emerge from their homes, wanting to survey the damage for themselves. Houston District crews worked with local law enforcement to find alternatives to Interstate 10, which was underwater for 2 days and was just one of many flooded roadways throughout the city. Lack of electricity stymied signal repairs and left 1 million Houstonians still powerless a week after Hurricane Ike passed through. The crew staged in Bryan headed north of Houston to Montgomery and Liberty counties, where hurricane-force winds had destroyed homes and ripped trees from the ground, bending and breaking them easily. Trees snapped like toothpicks littered the roads, and branches weighing hundreds of pounds blocked travel lanes. Power lines were pulled down as trees fell, leaving the area without electricity. Wet pine needles, branches, and brush combined to form a thick, sticky mat that was difficult for debris teams to remove. Huge trees, 100 feet high, broken like twigs, sprawled across the roads, traffic creeping around them. Gradall operators got busy, pushing, dragging, and moving debris from the roadways, clearing a path. Chainsaws roared into action, and branches fell as TxDOT crews worked to make the debris-clogged roads usable again.
All the different districts are coming in as one, and you work as a team, basically. It's getting things done.
In Beaumont, crews encountered widespread flooding, broken signals, and numerous missing signs, common hurricane damage. But it was the marsh grass, tons and tons of marsh grass, dredged from the bay and washed onto the roadways, that caused the most headaches. Wet and stinking with decay, the grass was full of trash and decomposing animals and fish. The stench was overwhelming.
This is actually 4 foot of marsh grass and telephone poles, and we ran into snakes and alligators, and you name it, we've seen it. We're fixing to hit a herd of cattle here about another 2 hours. They're sitting right out in the middle of the road, and they're starving. And poor things.
Downed power lines, some visible and some buried in the muck, thwarted efforts to remove debris and endangered crews working to clear roads.
Some of the power lines are laying on the road, but some of them are actually dangling cab high on your truck.
TxDOT crews had been warned that they would probably encounter angry alligators and snakes who had been displaced by the storm. But Edward Bernal of Corpus Christi still got the surprise of his life.
And I turned around and there was a boar about that tall. Ah! We both got scared, and I ran this way, he ran that way.
But wild boars weren't the only unusual sight that TxDOT crews would encounter during the recovery process. Near Port Arthur in southeast Texas, crews were surprised to find 2 enormous barges sitting on the westbound lanes of Highway 73. And near the Trinity River Island Recreation Area, an entire house had made its way, intact, to the frontage road. But nothing the crews had already seen could prepare them for the devastation of Galveston Island. TxDOT teams clearing a path into Galveston were shocked to see the Causeway Bridge, the main road into the island, covered with boats. A lot of boats. Houseboats, sailboats, fishing boats, and yachts were piled onto the road and onto each other, the result of the storm surge. The southbound lanes were virtually covered in thick piles of soggy marsh grass, brimming with all types of debris that had been tossed onto the road by the churning ocean. Washing machines, cars, and propane tanks mixed with toys, clothes, and trash. The city itself was deserted, and roads were piled high with tons of sand. Entire subdivisions of beachfront homes were either heavily damaged or simply gone. FM 3005 was barely recognizable and became a deadly minefield of downed power lines and dangerous debris piles. The crews clearing the road knew that the island had been devastated by the storm surge, but actually seeing the magnitude of that destruction was a bitter sight for these Texans.
For everything to get back to normal, oh, this will never be normal.
But sometimes the first steps on the road to getting back to normal are as simple as a hot lunch.
Got some barbecue beef and pork, and meatballs and rice. They're taking care of us. They're watching out for us.
Watching out for us, watching out for each other. It's the reason the crews came. It's the reason they sacrificed. It's the reason district personnel behind the lines stepped up, preparing and delivering meals to crews in the field. Watching out for each other. It's what TxDOT does.
I'll never be able to say enough about how much Beaumont District appreciates our visiting districts, and hopefully one day we'll get to repay the favor. Hopefully not with a hurricane. Maybe they just want us to come down and help them mow the grass. We're easy, but we really appreciate what they've done.
At one point during the height of preparations, just over 1,700 TxDOT employees were involved in hurricane planning or preparations. This included pre-staging crews and equipment, directing division response, purchasing and delivering supplies and materials, making sure signs and message boards displayed appropriate information, keeping the media informed, and of course, making sure our hardworking TxDOT crews had a place to rest.
And sleeping equipment, pillows and blankets and stuff over to the Cleveland maintenance section.
To see all the people that make it work too behind the scenes, they like getting the bedding or like making sure the fuel gets here. And then those guys that do the stuff on the road and like people that are answering phones and stuff like that. It's really awesome when everybody pulls together. It's a neat thing to be a part of. So, you know, when I see all the different districts adding to it, it's really neat. It makes me feel like TxDOT really is like one big family. It's really neat.
That family will not soon forget the destructive power of Ike. But neither will they forget the constructive power of determination and courage shown in the face of danger by the people of TxDOT. and demonstrated for the citizens of Texas. No matter what the disaster, no matter where the need, night or day, we stand ready to serve. Our greatest asset is, and will always be, our people.
Oh, I'm glad I came. I wouldn't trade it. Wouldn't change it. I'll come again if he'll let me.